Hello, everybody. Welcome to Compton's Corner. I'm your host, William Compton. I'm a teacher, lifelong Kentuckian, and candidate running for Kentucky's 2nd Congressional District. And I'm joined with my co host, Spencer Keck. Spencer.
Yeah, I am Spencer Keck, coming at you from the Hillbilly Think Tank here in Hardin County, Kentucky, on the edge of Elizabethtown, Kentucky. I got an Elizabethtown address. I'm in the 3rd district, and I am running for magistrate here.
Awesome. And today we are joined on Compton's Corner with someone running for our U.S. Senate seat, which is currently held by Mitch McConnell, Vincent Thompson. Vincent, do you want to tell everybody a little bit about yourself and why you're running for this Senate seat?
Well, the big cause that made me run for it. So I've been serving on the Hardin County Conservation District as a chairman for about 12 years now. And I got involved with the State Kentucky Association of Conservation Districts. I currently sit on their board as the regional chair for Area 3. And I got suggested to go to a leadership program at the National Association of Conservation Districts. It's called the NGLI, Next Generation Leadership Institute. And we spent 2 sessions in D.C. over the course of last year, among other places. We went to San Diego for their national convention. I went to Boston for their Senate convention. And both times I was in D.C., of course, we were really focused on the Farm Bill because we were trying to secure IRA funds that have been delegated for agricultural purposes. I can't remember the number. I want to say it's like $15 billion, something like that. Of course, we have a very close working relationship with the NRCS. That's the Natural Resources Conservation Service. They're a federal entity, and they kind of manage the funds coming into the state from the federal level. And then it goes to the state level, and then they delegate out the cost shares, and then they go to the county. And of course, that's what my position as chairman. I have to sign the checks and make sure that those practices are implemented on the ground. And so our big focus was the Farm Bill. And like I said, 2 sessions in D.C. I went up there back in March of 24 now. And try to speak with Mitch McConnell directly. Now I did get to speak with his staff a little bit, but Mr. McConnell wasn't able to spend any time with me. I tried to speak with Mr. Rand Paul, again, staff. And again, the staff, of course, that really the staff is where you want to get to anyway with the higher powers. But still would have been nice to speak with the delegate directly. Now, to his credit, I know William, you're running against him, but Mr. Guthrie did give me the time of day. Like, he sat and spoke with me for a good 30 minutes or so. And we talked about some things. Of course, he's very good at that. Like, he even had that town hall here in E-Town a couple of weeks ago. It was more kind of for the higher officials in the county, but still, at least he made the time to come down to it. And then, so that kind of discouraged me. And of course, I was a member of a cohort that we had 6 individuals in it, and their congressional members were more than welcoming. Like, I sat and spoke with them on more topics than I was able to speak with my own representatives, and that disheartened me. But I gave them the benefit of the doubt because we went there in March, and that's the big time of year, opening session and all that kind of stuff. But I went back in September, and we spent just a day that time in D.C., and again, I couldn't make any contact with anybody at that point. And as we know, IRA pretty much got wiped off the map. There was some funding put together for agriculture. It was nowhere near the amount that IRA had delegated for it, but it still was something. So I've still been doing my job as far as, delegating those funds out to individuals in the county that are trying to, put good conservation practices in the soil and, make sure that we're protecting our waterways and soil health and those kind of things. So that's my immediate history regarding it. And that's really what pushed me to say, and then of course, once I heard McConnell was retiring, I was like, well, I'm not sure that I can win, but anytime you don't have to go against an incumbent, it's a much better shot at getting your foot in the door than it is going against an incumbent, because it's almost an impossible roadblock to get over an incumbent.
Yeah, I agree. But I will say, you mentioned my opponent, Brett Guthrie, and him coming down to Radcliffe.
Yep.
I do want to say he came down and spoke with a select group of people, like you said,
Right.
and people across this district have been asking for him to have a public town hall. And that's where the big issue is. He won't stand in front of everybody.
Yep.
He'll only sit and talk with a select group that he handpicks or his staff handpicks. And that's not, to me, that's not being a leader.
I
And
agree.
he's not the only one that does that. So I did want to bring that up too. So,
Well, you know why that is, don't you, there, Dakota?
because if you're in your own echo chamber and you don't
Yeah.
have to answer any hard questions.
Yeah. They're trying to make sure that there aren't any, loyal opposition to talk to,
Yeah.
But that's a sign of a autocracy.
Yeah. So with you running in the Senate and me running for the House seat, one of the big topics that is, of course, on everybody's mind is this government shutdown. And I just want to take a moment. I want to get your thoughts on this government shutdown. Before you do that, we do have a little bit of an update. Apparently, the Senate Democrats are going in, the Senate Republicans are going in right now. They're having their own conversations. And the rumor is that they're nearing talks on coming up with some kind of negotiation. And rumors are that Democrats are going to open the government back up for the promise of a vote in the start of December to extend the ACA subsidies, is what we've been hearing here lately. And so I just want to ask your opinion on the government shutdown, and then I can give my opinion afterwards.
Well, it has directly impacted so many people across the county, state, of course, but we have Fort Knox in the county, and then it's directly impacted the Hardin County Conservation District because we utilize their office space both for our staff and for our meetings. And when that building is shut, somebody has to be in there that's a federal employee, or we can't do it. Now, that doesn't mean we can't, work a little magic on the side and find a place to do it. We can get our business accomplished, and most of it gets accomplished anyway. But as far as the direct impact, I mean, it's felt at the very grassroots level of everything. I understand we've had shutdowns in the past, and there's probably a necessity to them to kind of get people shook up a little bit, get them out of their comfort zone. But this appears to me to be weaponized. And, I'm sure I'm not alone in thinking that. And I could be totally wrong, but it just feels that way because, there's a little bit of opposition in some fashion. Like, my big thought about it was I've been seeing a lot of posts on Facebook about the Democrats are trying to secure funding for several overseas programs. I can't remember all of them by name, but I think I did some quick math on it. It looked like it came up to about, I don't know, maybe $20 million for different types of programs, and then going into SNAP. And what is that, a $4 billion program, something like that?
Yeah, something around there. Yeah.
And yeah, again, I understand that's a lot of money. But then when you hear like a week or two after the shutdown that Argentina has been cleared for something like, what is it, 50 billion, $40 billion?
Yeah. 40 billion.
40
yeah.
billion. Plus, we're sending them all, we're glutting our market with their beef.
Right.
They've also now cornered the soybean market since these tariffs have killed our trade with, China and with Canada. So now China has no reason to buy our soybeans ever again. And I don't know anybody else in America that likes to eat tofu except for some, hippies. Well, I love those hippies, but, I like to eat some beef.
Yeah.
But I also like to know that I'm helping the American farmers.
I raise beef cattle, and right now, for the first time in a long time, it's been a pretty easy, secure of funding for what we know was a high quality product, and finally being able to make some ends meet rather than always behind the eight ball in that regard.
Absolutely.
So on my end, I'm actually not a big fan of any government shutdown, even when it happened under Obama. If our government was functioning, in my opinion, the way that it should function, we shouldn't always have this looming presence of this shutdown where everything could just collapse like we're seeing right now. And I think this is a big sign of a weakness that we see with our government. And we need to elect people that's willing to fix it to where this doesn't happen again. This, like you said, is being weaponized, and we are all feeling it. And I know in Meade County, which you and I both were at the Meade County Bean Supper, which was an amazing event, there were federal workers there who are working and not getting paid from this. And again, I have to give credit where credit is due. I'm not the biggest fan of, I cannot remember his first name, but Senator Kennedy from, I think, Louisiana. I think that's, he, on a complete side note, his Southern colloquialisms are hilarious. I love them. But I don't agree with him a lot, but he tried to even put forward a bill to ensure that one bill was Congress couldn't get paid and would not get back paid when the government opened up. They would just lose the money they would have originally gotten. And then the second,
could you believe a Republican did that?
well,
That
yeah.
awesome.
And then the second bill to try and appease them was, okay, well, you won't get paid during the shutdown, but all your money will go kind of like in an escrow. And then when it comes out, you get that money back. And I know you're not running for his seat, but the one Republican that objected to that was Rand Paul. And I'm sorry, but I could get behind even the first bill that Kennedy put forward. It just shows the lack of leadership that we're seeing from the majority party in both chambers right now.
Well, and that's what doesn't make sense to me about the shutdown either. Is like they control all three positions of government. Now, I know you had to have a supermajority in Senate for a lot of the bills to go through. So I'm sure that was the holdup on this one, which supermajority is a talk for another time. I really don't really agree with that. I'm a Democrat. I believe in democracy. I believe in 51% or 50.001% of the vote pushes it forward. And then I also have some kind of Republican ideals, because Republic is supposed to kind of fit those special interests into the majority's thinking so that we don't leave anybody behind. That's kind of where I fall in my party identification. But yeah, as far as like in my board meeting, like it takes a majority rule for something to pass. When we vote on our minutes, we vote on our treasury report. We have to have a quorum present, and the majority of the quorum has to vote on that. If they don't, the business halts.
Yep. That's the same for my city commission. And I will say, even Marjorie Taylor Greene, I'm sorry, Spencer, I completely cut you off.
Yeah, I mean, I like to say something on that if you don't mind.
Sure.
Yeah.
We have a pluralistic society, and in that society, who's in the minority one decade might not be in the minority in the next decade. So when we just have only majority having any say at all, that leads to tyranny, of the minorities. Whether it's a Republican minority, a Democratic minority, a religious minority, an ethnic minority. So the idea that the majority can't run roughshod over a minority, regardless of what it is, that actually does have some merit.
I agree.
We don't need another civil war where you get one side feeling like, hey, no one's ever listening to me, and that's what we got right now. They're trying to pit the urban against the rural, the rural against the suburban, and make us all divided and make us all feel as if there's no way our voice can never be heard. So I believe there is something to be said for having to have 60% rather than just that 50%, because a lot of things, can just barely fall into, hey, my voice is never listened to. But you got to listen, you got to compromise if you have to go to 60%. There's no compromise necessary if it's only 50%. That's just my opinion. But that art of compromise has been lost in America ever since the first shutdown in the 90s.
Is it me? Did I freeze, or was that Spencer?
Spencer, looked like you froze, but then I couldn't hear you either, so I was worried it was me.
Okay, well, I can hear at least you now. So if he unfreezes, I will let him finish his point. My thing is right now, and he was getting onto it, there's no compromise to
Oh,
get
no,
to
not
that
at all.
60. And with Republicans being in charge of all three branches, and even though we have this filibuster, they could, as Marjorie Taylor Greene has said multiple times, as Trump has even said multiple times, is hold on a second. I have some background noise going on. I apologize.
You're right.
Sorry.
That's all right. No big deal.
But they've even said that they could vote to lower the threshold to that 51 majority.
Mm-hmm.
And they keep saying, well, it's Democrats' fault that things are not passing. Well, if y'all want it to pass so much, take that step and lower it. And they're not doing that. And it's just they don't want to lead. They don't want to govern.
Well, and they know the danger in doing that, just like Spencer was alluding to. Like there is some necessity for that, but they also know that they're worried right now. I think what I've been reading, of course, it could be biased, but they're worried right now that the blue wave that everybody keeps on talking about is coming, and when they don't have power, they're going to want that supermajority.
Yep. Oh yeah. And that's and Spencer's gone. He will jump back in. When he comes back in, we'll get him back in there. But yeah, this whole shutdown is just insane to me. We shouldn't have this government that completely stops because of honestly the ego of the men and women that's elected. I mean, there's Spencer.
Man,
welcome back.
There he is.
I guess I was saying something wrong. I take it back, guys. let the majority trample everybody. But is it okay if I continue, or did you guys move on?
Yes, yeah. You can
All right,
continue.
sorry about that. Yeah, so for years and years and years, the Republicans have acted as if they're a downtrodden minority, and as if they're representing the secret majority out there. If they could just get heard. Well, now here they are. They have all the power, and they want to act still as if like they're beleaguered minority. No, you've got the majority power. They're abusing it. Did we lose William?
He's having some issues with the background noise. I think he's trying to take care of that.
Okay. So, and it just, I think this is just a glaring example, when I was on active duty for over 20 years, I had some great leaders and some bad leaders. But some of the best leaders I had were in the Marine Corps infantry, and they always made sure that the least among them, the lowest ranked individuals went to eat first if we went to the chow line, right? So when you're in the Marine Corps and you're out in the field and they bring out some hot chow, the lowest ranking person goes to the head of the line. So if you've got a general in company with you, or a colonel or a captain, doesn't matter, they're going to eat last. That enlisted person's going to eat first. That's the type of leadership we're not seeing. Treating the least among us, the minority, group, with the most respect. So right now we got down in Mar-a-Lago, on if you guys haven't followed, on Halloween, they were down there partying to a party of $4.3 million with strippers, with, you might have seen the theme of what it was, is, pretty in your face. And then just this last weekend, they had another party just like that with a seafood banquet that could fill up my house. Lobster, caviar, snow crab legs, you name it, drinking champagne, while out in Fort Leavenworth, the base there has closed down its chow hall for the enlisted folks. There's 250 people who live in those barracks in the middle of nowhere. They're not getting chow. Now, if he was a real effing leader, like I see these memes all the time presenting, to Ben, he'd be saying, you know what, guys, we need to take these $4.3 million and go to every single military base there is and make sure that our folks are eating well. Because E4s and E5s in the military, if they have kids, they qualify for food stamps. So they're getting a double whammy right now. They're not getting paid, and their kids are going hungry. And that's not real leadership.
Exactly.
Yeah, they've got the majority and acting like it's the Democrats' fault. Heck, no. We're just trying to make sure that people get fed and they don't go bankrupt like we did 20 years ago before we got that Affordable Care Act, which they've been trying to get rid of ever since. And that's just, sorry for getting on a rant, but it's Veterans Day, and I really feel that some of the leadership values I learned in the military could be applied. Rarely do I say that, but this is the time. You want to call yourself a commander-in-chief? You want to say you're the party that loves veterans more than anybody else? Put your money where your mouth is. Quit partying while people are suffering, and take your money out there and show us some real respect and human decency and leadership.
Yeah.
It's not about whether you have a super majority and don't know how to use it. It's about no respect.
It's very Roman, if you look at it in that regard, because I hadn't heard anything about that party. It does not surprise me. But
two parties now.
Yeah. You do that kind of, that's opulence. That's, just.
And that was the theme of the one on Halloween,
See,
the thing was opulence,
I was thinking it was a very much let them eat cake moment.
Well, no, we've gone beyond that. It's fuck let them eat cake, let them fucking starve, and let's use them as pawns, because they were, that's what, because he knows he's got us divided, rural against urban, as if we have that many differences, which we really don't. We all need
native versus immigrant.
Yep, native versus immigrant, which we've been playing. This is one that's come up, time after time after time in our history. It's
so
ugly.
You mentioned something in there that I do want to go on to move to our next topic, and that's the SNAP benefits. So I know you and I talked about SNAP benefits last week, but Vincent, I want to get your opinion on everything that's going on with the SNAP benefits and with the new updates we've seen this last week and everything.
Just the biggest thing about that is, like, again, I have friends and acquaintances on both sides of the aisle on this issue, and it just keeps on getting played up that, that bootstrap American mentality. Yes, that did kind of forge our destiny across the continent. But as far as just to bring in religion to it, to bring Christianity into it, Jesus' main message was take care of the poor. So, the amount of money that's being spent, yes, it's a lot of money. But if you look at the comparison of the money going towards food stamps and underserved healthcare, that money is dwarfed by the socialist policies being put forth towards big businesses.
Yeah.
But it's an easy thing to pick on because it keeps the lower tiers of society squabbling with each other.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want any kid to go hungry at all. Even with the program we have, kids are still going to bed hungry because you can't reach everybody, unfortunately. But doing something like this, we're not even attempting to do our best. And even at the amount we're funding, that's not doing our best.
Exactly.
So, and another thing I was either read about or somebody told me about, that money shouldn't have been able to be frozen anyway. There's an emergency contingency fund set in place for such an occurrence as we are having right now, where that program is funded.
Absolutely. And he knows it.
And
but they're
that's
playing.
What the judges are saying, like, he's been ordered by a couple of judges that you don't have the jurisdiction on this. But he, kind of what you were alluding to earlier with the Republican Party, they're kowtowing to him because they know he is pivotal to their next election. And they're not putting forth that leadership that we've spoken about multiple times already, where you have to stand up to that. We have three branches of government, and they're supposed to stand up to each other when they're wrong, and they're supposed to work together for the common good.
Amen.
Yeah. So for those who are watching who don't know about the updates, we saw the last podcast, we talked about how the judge, it was McConnell Jr., the good McConnell in our government that I like to say, and another federal judge. They said that by Monday of this past week, they needed to come up with a plan to fund SNAP. Then we saw the Trump administration say they were only going to fund it at 50%. And then they said, well, we're going to do it at 65%. And then McConnell said, well, no, you have to fully fund it no matter what. And so
Judge McConnell, you're saying?
Yes, Judge McConnell.
Let's be clear on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mitch McConnell hadn't weighed in at all, as Karen.
No. And then, so some SNAP benefits went out to some people across America. I know a few people who I've spoken with, a couple in California and places like that. They received their full benefits.
Right. But William, just like our state right now, our governor is trying to use our stopgap funds.
Yes.
You know, California's using their stopgap funds. This isn't, so they're having to take away money that they should be using on the next fire that this president is not going to help them pay for once they need it.
Yes.
So that's what we've got to remember. It's not it's not Trump doing this, releasing it like he's supposed to. It's the states.
Yes. And so some people got their fully funded SNAP. And then, of course, the administration, they appealed the decision by Judge McConnell. The appeal went to the district court. And I can't remember what district number that is. It leads up to the Supreme Court. They ruled that they didn't want to put a hold on everything. So then they bumped it up to the Supreme Court, and it went to Justice Brown. I always say her first name wrong.
Ketanji Jackson Brown.
Yes. And she actually put a 48-hour stay on putting the funds out. And a lot of people gave her flack over that Friday. But she was smart about it. She was really smart about it. She put the time limit on it after 48 hours, and it goes right back to the lower court's ruling. And the lower court ruled that they didn't want to put a stay on SNAP benefits. They wanted it to go out to everybody. So it's forcing her to get more evidence to where when this administration brings it to the full Supreme Court, they have, the lower courts have said this twice now. We don't need to allow this to keep going. So she's gathering evidence, and she's also, there's a lot of people speculating that they think the funds might already have been used for something and we didn't know about it, and they're not there, which wouldn't surprise me.
No,
Vincent might be able to talk to this. The thing is, we're going to have to this year bail out all the soybean farmers who've seen their soybeans rot in the field. We're going to have to end up bailing out the beef producers if this beef glut from Argentina drives their prices down so much that they can't afford their conservation efforts. Right. They can't afford their to grow the beef in the healthy way that they're supposed to, that Argentina doesn't have any requirements for. They don't have any conservation programs over there to worry about. Hell, they slash and burn all the time, and and ruin their environment with no worries. If you look at it, then their neighbor, Brazil, who also produces about the same amount of beef, they have a 50% tariff on their beef. Why is that? Because that country got rid of its fascist autocrat, Bolsonaro. And Trump has demanded that Brazil release him from prison, right? And because they're not, they got a 50% tariff on their beef. Now, does that make any sense at all? When we just gave $40 billion to Argentina, they've got all of our soybean market, right? And now they're allowed to glut our market with beef. And he said, because I like his policies. They have it tough. They're in trouble, he said. make Argentina great again.
Yeah. And I actually had a thought that popped up when you were saying that. If with our farmers, part of me thinks that the goal is for him to get rid of as many of the small businesses, the small farmers as possible for his
Well, we already
corporate
know
buddies
that JD
to take
Vance
over.
works
Yeah.
for, has a, interest in a corporation that's buying them up along with
Yeah.
Peter Thiel. Yeah.
Yeah. So who's to say that they're even going to try and help our small farmers? What if they're just going to let them high and dry so the corporate market can come in and take over?
So
And
I
you might
have
get new.
a pretty
Yeah.
good amount of knowledge regarding where farmer funding comes and goes. The amount of money that they put forth to try to help out the farmers, it will provide some assistance, but that money is also available to processors of farm commodities. So that
So
amount
your
of money,
slaughterhouses you're talking about, right?
well, it could be slaughterhouses, it could be grain processors, it could be ethanol plants, and that's not to say it's all going to go there, but
More than
that money
likely,
is
right?
going to be feeding the bottom lines of those integral parts of the ag industry.
Because that ethanol is going to feed some money right into the oil and petroleum conglomerates. So,
Very much.
yep.
So, any other last minute conversations about SNAP?
Well, again, it's back to I have a show every night. William and I just do this one, on Sundays, but every single night, just like you're saying, Vincent, I end my cast with, we know what Jesus said. Take care of the least among us. They're going to be the blessed. The meek shall inherit heaven, not the proud and the almighty. And we are our brother's keeper. We're supposed to love our neighbors as ourselves. We're our sister's keeper. And this is not doing it, when we're just playing to what the big money so-called majority says.
Yeah. All right. So our next topic, I'm going to let Vincent, whatever topic you feel that you would like to talk about for a little bit is up to you.
Well, it's hard to transition off of such big topics as we come off of. I might be better off just kind of hearing some questions from you all on where I might happen to stand on some issues, or I don't know, just kind of do a little bit of banter. We kind of did that beforehand,
Yeah.
introductions like that. But I'd like to hear, what you all are thinking about and what you would think I might be able to do about it should I get in the position. Because even if I were to be elected, I can't take care of it all. Like, I can't get everything accomplished. Like, I'm doing my best not to make, outright promises, because I know from firsthand experience that anytime I bring a particular position before my board, it requires the majority to come on board with it. So I have to be on my A game in my presentation. I have to know who's going to be involved with what program, and I have to help things along. Like, I can't just, I don't have authoritarian power. I don't want authoritarian power. Like, I do my best to always say, if I'm coming across as pushy or anything like that, please tell me, because that's not my intention. This seems like a good program to me. So I just love to hear what you all are thinking and put it to me, maybe.
Well, you actually made a good point there that when we hear candidates running for office, a lot of them are always going to say, I'm going to pass this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And I've even, with my campaign, I'll even say, well, listen, we need to pass this, so I'm going to present this legislation on day one and work to pass it. I'm not saying that I'm going to pass it, but I like, for example, the budget bill. I think we need to repeal the healthcare cuts in the budget bill. So I tell everyone I'm going to present on day one a bill to repeal those in the House. But saying outright, hey, I'm going to, I heard someone say that we're going to abolish ICE. How are you going to get that through Congress right now, especially if the makeup barely changes?
Right.
It's not feasible. So I'm glad that you did say that. It's great to have aspirations for what you want to fight for, but we also have to know how to fight for them and get them passed with a governing body.
Right.
So I'm glad you said that.
And I think it's very appealing to the common voter to think that people have more power than they do. And when you start leaning into that, you see what we're seeing right now with President Trump, to where as long as that power is held in benevolent hands, it could be a good thing. But even on good bills, on good things that we have pushed forward in the past, there are always negative outcomes. Many we can't foresee. So, we have to put the representatives' feet to the fire a little bit, but we also have to give them a little bit of grace, because when, like you said, when we're reaching that high ideal, like that's the goal. That's the process to get there. But when it comes down to, we will have to cut some. If we're going to put money here, we got to take money away from here. And granted, we're talking about billions of dollars at the federal level, but just from my own experience, when I'm part of the budget committee on the conservation district. Every year we have to have it filed by March. I have to go before fiscal court in E-Town. So we have to have a budget meeting. We have to go line by line. Here's the money that we carried over for last year. Here's the money we're anticipating getting for this year. And say we're giving away 10 scholarships this year to high school and college students. But last year we only had 6 applicants. Prior year we only had 4 applicants. So we're going to probably drop that down to 8 scholarships. And then should the need arise, then we can juggle our budget. Because we have to do a quarterly budget revision with the state, 4 times a year to assess the budget we made versus the budget that we're sitting at actually. And, that's just democratic process.
Yeah. And I mean, I face that with my city commission every summer, the start of the summer, we have to come up with our budget for the next fiscal year that has to be presented in our local newspapers and
Yep, right.
forever. Yeah. And we have to do that. And when it comes to the promising thing, I'll say this. Our current mayor here in this city, he is getting into his last year of being mayor. One of the big things that he talked about was getting a part-time police officer for our city. Now, we don't have one, but the people here have seen him trying.
Right.
And that's the big thing. Seeing your elected official trying to get the stuff passed. And I mean, with this police officer, we had someone and they retired. And as soon as they retired, the state police snatched them up with better benefits. And we can't compete with that.
No.
But it's like,
you want them to have that opportunity. Like,
yeah,
we take on a 75-25. Well, actually, it's 80-20 cost share right now. And like over the last couple of years, because of all the IRA funding, the state has been able to increase their workforce. So I want that young person that's working for us to be able to move into the full-time federal position. That creates a huge burden on us. We have to do the whole hiring process again. And, there's some credence to trying to find good candidates. It's across the board in every industry. I'm not trying to knock anybody, but some people just fit in certain areas. So that's a burden on us. But I still want that individual to have those benefits and to be able to know that they've got a secure job with the federal government.
Yep. Oh, yeah. And when I spoke with a lot of people towards the end of Biden's term, a lot of people that I spoke with that I don't always agree with, but a lot of them go, well, Biden promised this on his campaign trail. He never got it done. He promised, I know one of the big things was the student loan forgiveness.
Right.
He promised he was going to student loan forgiveness, and I never got it. Well, he tried. He worked his butt off for it. and he did everything he could.
You didn't ask him how long they dragged their feet, because he did put it into effect.
Yeah,
And many people did get it before.
yeah. But
before that over.
I mean, he kept his promise where he said he was going to fight for this, and that's what I think a lot of people, especially on the federal level, see. And with regards to presidents, this president promised this, well, they didn't get it done. This president promised this, and that's why we get this back and forth of Democrat, Republican over and over again. And
what a pendulum.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, the president is not supposed to be the king. So it's not
exactly.
the king. You can't blame it on the king. The king is, we don't have a king.
Exactly.
Can't say the king didn't get it done. No, he's just the executive to sign off on bills. You know?
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, he's supposed to push ideas out there, but it's supposed to be what you're running for, both of you. You know, it's supposed to be that Senate and that House making legislation. Yeah, the president can talk about what he wants his party to push for the legislation to be and what he'll sign off on. But, you know, people don't understand civics in this country. I mean, I guess that was just really, you know, came evident when people were getting upset and asking, you know, Colma, or who was it? They're asking our Secretary of State why they couldn't vote in the election for Mamdani from Kentucky. It's like, oh, really? Thanks, you know. Thanks for making us look like, you know, we never taught you civics.
Well,
I know we did.
Well, I mean, also, I still get when it comes to primaries, which we're both in.
All three of us are in. What do you mean?
I didn't realize that you had a primary.
No, I might not be. I mean, maybe I'm not being primary. We'll see.
But I still have so many people going, man, I wish there wasn't a primary because it's going to split the vote, and then the person we don't want in there is going to automatically get in there. I'm like, no, it's not the general election. The primary is not going to split the vote in the Democratic primary for the Republican. That's not how that works. And like you said, it's just evident that the lack of civic education is not there.
And you know,
we teach it to them. We try to.
But it's elective.
I got a question for you, Vincent. You know, being Veterans Day and being Veterans Weekend and opening of deer season, you know, I just got to go out with a group who invited me out to do some hunting on a farm where this farmer is getting a tax write-off for having a veterans group out in his property. It was pretty awesome. You know, I actually got a doe, get some meat for the family. But I was really impressed with his conservation efforts on his property. He's really careful about, you know, what's harvested, what's not harvested. And what do you think that your experience, you know, in this conservation district is going to do for taking back that knowledge that a small town, you know, farmer and a small family farm, in my opinion, cares a lot more for the environment and for, you know, wildlife than does a corporate farm? And how are you going to take your, you know, experience as that family farmer and someone who has got experience as you do, you know, in this conservation efforts? How are you going to combine that and basically educate America and the Senate that we really need to get behind the small town and the you know, small family farm folks and quit letting this corporation stuff take over, because they don't care about, in my opinion, they don't care really about the land. They don't care about the communities. They're destroyed when you destroy the small family farms and small operations. You know, what can you do in the Senate to help push that?
So my work through the Conservation District, I've also been involved with the Hardin County Extension Council, the County Ag Improvement Program, which is the state tobacco settlement funding that goes back to farmers that of course you have to apply for it. It's a cost share program to where you get, I think the last several years we've put forth about $5,000 per approved applicant. You know, these hoop barns you see everywhere, the plastic type roof and metal on the side. those were put there for hay storage, because we know that putting that hay in the barn in the dry saves you a lot of waste on your hay. That's just, the science is there. The University of Kentucky has been an excellent partner for all these type of programs. And as far as passing along, that's been my whole experience with the Kentucky Association of Conservation Districts, the National Association of Conservation Districts. Our goal is to put out there what we are actually going to accomplish. And they get on to us about it all the time, that people like to say we're the best kept secret in agriculture because we offer those cost shares. We're not looking for fanfare. We want to know that the practices are in place and that we're protecting the soil and the water. So passing along is kind of a hard thing to adapt to, especially when I'm fairly young by conservation district supervisor standards. It's getting younger as it goes, but you have a lot of people in there that have been serving, 20, 30, 40 years. I mean, I'm on the way to 20 years myself. So passing that information along to people is a challenge. The main thing is we have to just talk about, it's hard for the consumer to see everything that goes into putting that product at the grocery store. And so many things take beef. So when I'm feeding beef, I want to make sure that they're living the best life they can. I tell people my livestock have one bad day in their life. Every other day, they're supposed to have plenty of grass. They're supposed to have access to water, hopefully fresh water. But, they can get by on pond water. But we've had programs putting like water tanks in so that you have the cattle going to a freshwater source. When I'm feeding my cattle, I look for, the nutrient content, but also that the cow just, will eat it. And then that makes my beef taste better. Like I've had many people compliment me on the taste of my beef over, whoever else's beef they got. And that it all goes into how you manage them. It all goes into what you put into them, and then trying to make sure that they're not, slogging through the mud all the time. And sometimes they have to, like cows are outside animals. They don't really do well in captive environments.
It's better than slogging through their excrement in those feedlots where all they do is just pump them full of grain, right? Yeah.
Right. And see, at that end of the market, America has the best beef in the world. No questions asked. Like you hear about all these, the overuse of the overabundance of methane coming from livestock. That's a worldwide number. American methane output is dwarfed by every other country because of our inputs into them, taking care of them. Like when I raise my beef, they go into captivity maybe about 45 days prior to being processed. It's not feasible for a feed yard who's trying to put out so much quantity to funnel into the big distributors. You were talking about Brazil a little bit ago. Brazil owns the largest processing facility in America. And that's the case across other things. Like, I can't remember the name of the pork processor, but it's China owned. A lot of those companies are going to be affected by this tariff because like China's still making their money. Brazil's still making their money. It's just hurting the farmer out here who has tried that. We've encouraged over the years to rotate your crops. Grow corn one year, grow soybean the other. It helps the soil aerate. It puts the soybean is a legume, so it does better utilization of nitrogen than corn does. Corn is a nitrogen hog,
and a water hog. Yeah.
I don't know if I answered your question. I was kind of going more of what I know about it.
Yeah.
And I guess my ability to talk about that is my way to inform not only the public about what we do, but when I'm sitting on the floor of the Senate and talking to my compatriots and trying to tell them, like, they're probably not going to be seeing the details that I know of, all the little bitty things that build up to that product. You know, they've got other things to think about. Most consumers have other things to think about, especially right now when they are thinking about they can't even get the food. And then who the distributors are and who the processors are, and is it coming from, you know, like when you're talking about beef, a lot of our like fast food beef, it's being cut, it's overseas meat being cut with American fat so that it's cheaper to produce, but it also has the same consistency of what we want out of our, when we're going to buy a Big Mac or a Whopper or whatever you want to say. So most people don't know that. That's why you remember the big pink slime fiasco that happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what that was. I mean, they were taking, most countries in the world they're more pasture raised animals from the start to the finish. In America, we put more grain into them at an earlier age, so they put a higher fat content on them. That's just how our tastes are suited to that. So that's what we want. And when you have grass-fed beef, there's nothing wrong with it. I like grass-fed beef as well as I like grain-fed beef, but I have a particular push towards grain-fed beef at that last stage because the people that I sell product to, they just want to see more of that fat in them.
Gotcha. Yeah, I bet there's maybe, if only, maybe one or two other senators currently that could probably speak about what you just did.
Yeah, we sadly we
Maybe.
lost Senator Tester from Montana. You know, because I was thinking, how many others actually are small, you know, family-owned operation ranchers or farmers? How many? That's what I'd really like to know. Not, you know, not some corporate, you know, subsidiary.
Kentucky is the largest beef cattle production state east of the Mississippi River. Now that when you get out west, you get to Texas, you get to Nebraska and Kansas and Montana, those states, like they're just dwarfing us.
Yeah, but they also have thousands of acres of beef.
And the way that it was all designed, like you can even see in their county layout, like Kentucky has 120 counties, and it's all based on your proximity to a river, on where that county line can be drawn. Everything from once you cross the Mississippi River, it's all almost a grid-like structure to allow for, you know, more area to do something with. Because some of those states out there, they're so big. I mean, if they were to chop up to their counties the way that Kentucky has, I mean, they'd have 1,000 counties. You go to California, they could have 2,000 counties.
Right. But they actually can't produce as much beef per acre as you can here in Kentucky.
They can't.
Due to that, you know, how arid it is and how, you know, trouble it is to get water and, you know, grow that hay. Yeah.
I know some of them, out for every acre in Kentucky, you can probably put out probably a calf, 3/4 of a calf per acre if you're doing good management. Out there, it can rise anywhere from 5 to 10, maybe even 20 acres per animal just to sustain them producing a calf on it.
Yep.
Yeah. So, all right. So we're approaching an hour. So, closing remarks. Vincent, I'll let you start us out. Any last closing remarks you want to tell everybody?
Well, I just thought I might state where I think my skill set lies and why I'd be a contender for the Kentucky Senate seat. Like I said, I've had 12 plus years working in an organization that does what the committee type process does at the Senate and House level. And I feel like I've been kind of priming myself for some type of higher office like this through the processes that I've learned. Not only what I've learned, but I've proven Hardin County Conservation District is a nonpartisan entity. We do our best to keep politics out of it. Now, I know we have private conversations on who we voted for, where we kind of stand politically, but that doesn't get in the way of our mission of making sure that soil and water are as protected as we can possibly make them, so that producers can make money and that society can have safe and healthy product. All those lessons that I've learned, I feel make me a suitable candidate for for the office that I am running for.
Awesome. And you made a good point there. I don't mean to go on another tangent.
You're fine.
Yesterday, I was in Owensboro and I heard from Rocky Atkins,
Mm-hmm.
and which amazing speaker, amazing servant for Kentucky. But he made the point that when he was House Majority Leader,
Pardon me a second, William. He's from where my grandparents are from too, Elliott County.
yes. So when he was House Majority Leader, him and the Minority Leader would go on the House floor. They would debate. They would have these huge, like, hour-long conversations about legislation. And then he would always say that they would be able to leave, shake hands afterwards, go get dinner together. He made the statement that before House sessions, he would have food and drink set up in his office, and Republicans would come in, Democrats would come in. They would have conversations with each other, have some drinks before they go on the floor. And what you just mentioned about you knowing with your colleagues how they voted, but y'all are still working together for the common good, that's something that we're lacking in our federal government. And so having that skill, like you said, is so important for our government. It's something that we've lost.
Like y'all are talking about, we've lost a lot of our civics knowledge.
Yeah.
We're definitely losing a lot of our civility knowledge.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
exactly.
Because
And that centers in empathy, right?
With everybody. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, I interrupt you. I'm sorry.
That's what I was just talking about. Like, I consider my colleagues to be my friends, or at least, very good acquaintances. Like, I want to see them succeed. And I also try to present things that might be a little bit challenging to where they're kind of thinking about. But for the most part, we can find a common goal to work towards. And I hope that everybody sees me the same that I see them. It doesn't matter who I'm talking to, anybody out there. Like, if I'm talking to a Republican, my goal is to make sure that their person feels comfortable enough to express what they feel is a grievance. And then for me to put forward, well, how do you think I should handle this grievance? How would you do it? What about if I tried this? Like you said with Representative Guthrie, like having that public town hall, I'm not afraid. I love being told that I'm wrong, because it makes me think about where I'm coming from, what bias am I holding? And if I put some critical thinking into it, am I still on the same page that I am? And if I am, then I push forward. That doing that mental legwork makes it where I'm stronger in my stance on a particular issue.
Yeah, well said. All right, Spencer, any closing remarks from you?
Well, I mean, I think what you're saying there, Vincent, we've lost empathy in America. We think being a bully is cool. Talked earlier about pulling ourselves up by the bootstraps. And I think that might be one of the biggest myths that we have, that we keep telling ourselves because we want to have this narcissistic, self-centered ideology and act like it's godly. But when my ancestors came through the gap with Daniel Boone, they didn't do it by themselves. Number one, they did it with Daniel Boone, and they did it with many other families. They wouldn't have survived if they hadn't done it together. And I don't care where you live in America, unless you're just truly, completely, absolutely living off the grid and just eating nuts and berries and starving certain parts of the year during starving time, you live in community. We live in community, all of us. We're not out here, John Wayne, riding the prairie and just, killing what we eat. And that's it, picking berries. John Wayne didn't even do that. So even those
deer, they're managed.
Yes.
Deer are managed.
Yes. The ones that the deer that I got was very well managed. They were very careful about what we harvested, and the manner we did it, not getting, bucks unless they were at least a 4x4, and Yeah, and I had to start off this year just getting my B tag, my doe tag. So, well, we've got to get back to that understanding that we're all truly our Kentucky motto. United we stand, divided we fall.
Right there.
Yes.
Even
Yep.
if we have some disunity, let's be in it together. We'll figure it out. We'll disagree, but we'll come back. We need to come back and unite through compromise, not
Yep.
through its nuclear option. I'm going to absolutely slaughter your idea and give you no voice. No, we all got to have some voice. We can't just let the loudest, most obnoxious, and meanest people be the only ones that partake in our wonderful state and our wonderful nation, our wonderful county here in Hardin County.
Yeah, exactly. So, Vincent, one last thing that's going to be really quick. Where can people find you outside of this podcast?
So I've talked to you about this a little bit. It's amazing how complicated the process is to run for public office, especially at this level. When I ran as conservation district supervisor, it was pretty simple. But just getting all the paperwork done, I've never been in a position where I've had to do campaign finance and campaign fundraising. Everything's really going through my Facebook page right now.
Okay.
My name is Vincent Thompson. You can find me on Facebook. I have a public profile. And then I have a specific page that says Vincent Thompson for U.S. Senator. I've sent out my invites to those people. I take pretty much any friend request and bring them over there. I try to share. I really haven't shared a lot on that page yet. But my plan is I'm going to post this podcast with your permission on that page so that I can share that link out to everybody. And hopefully they take the time to see it. I know we're living in kind of a short attention span these days with the TikToks and memes and all that kind of stuff. I hear about it from my daughter all the time. And that's why I was very happy for you to invite me on this podcast. Like I reached out to several larger podcasts because we have to have these type of long form discussions, not just in like-minded individuals like ourselves, but in that position of we have to talk across the aisle so that we can find out where they actually are and then work towards that middle ground. And yeah, we're probably going to have to cede towards the opposite side in some instances, but hopefully if we do our jobs right, we can bring some of that across our side as well and find some balance because we're being pulled apart right now. I had the idea for somebody to draw me a political cartoon where I was, had a lasso around an elephant or a lasso around a jackass and pulling them towards the middle because we've got to, just like you said, Spencer, about united we stand, divided we fall. We've got to come to the middle, at least in some, if not most regards. And we're not seeing that happen right now.
And I forgot to ask you an important question. So how many kids do you have and where do they go to school?
So I have one daughter. My wife, she passed away in 2020, not because of COVID. She had been battling congestive heart failure.
Oh, man.
SNAP and disability insurance, all those things are very close to my heart because when my wife is a special needs teacher. My daughter has autism. She had to go on disability because she couldn't function in the workplace anymore. She loved teaching. Never in a million years would she have imagined coming down with a congestive heart failure issue that she encountered. So she had to go on disability. We had to go on to her disability insurance, which is all funded through Social Security and Medicaid. And then my daughter still receives Medicaid because of her disability, because of my wife's disability package. And we've utilized SNAP before to where people just don't understand the circumstances that put people in the position of needing SNAP.
No, they don't.
I'm sure that there are people out there that are abusing the system. But for every one of those, there is 50 to 100 through no fault, through just sheer circumstance, are in the position of needing our help.
Well, so you just brought another point. Like I say, there's military folks that need it, and now we're an important part of our American life. The American, cattle producer, farmer has to have it. Come on, we got to have empathy. We can't use we can't do any of this looking down on people for needing something like that. I've got custody of my 14-year-old niece. Early this year or sometime last year, some money came into her. My uncle died, and he bequeathed everything to his nieces only.
Mm-hmm.
Well, just found out my niece, who's got SSI and Medicaid, she just fell off of it because of this money that's in an account that she can't use till she's 18.
Right.
And so now I'm like, what am I going to do? So I know exactly what you're talking about. It's not, and we're all three of us working folks.
Yeah.
We're not out here to make something off of the taxpayer to try to get over on anybody. No, we're just trying to be the honest, hardworking, real Americans, and just again, community.
Yeah.
You drove it home.
Yeah. So, all right, to end this out, thank you so much, Vincent, for being on here. Conversations have been great. We'd love to have you back on to talk about more. We have more time to talk about more in-depth issues. Because I know we only scratch the surface here. But to those watching, again, I'm William Compton. I'm running for Brett Guthrie's seat here in the 2nd Congressional District. You can find me at williamcompton.com. And I thank everybody for watching. Before you go, though, make sure that you check your voter registration. Make sure you are registered to vote. Make sure you are registered to vote in the primaries. That's the big thing. May 19th is our primaries. Make a plan to get out and go vote for those, because those are so important.
And it's important to remember, the only way you can vote for William, or the only way you can vote for Vincent, if you're that independent, register as a Democrat just for a little while, and then go back to being your jolly independent as soon as the primaries are over. Otherwise, we can't get them on the ticket like we need to.
Exactly.
I'm running for Hardin County's 3rd district as magistrate, and I'd love to have your vote. But again, as we talked about tonight, we're all in this together. I love my neighbor as I love myself, and I love myself. I am a brother's keeper. I'm my sister's keeper. God bless your corazon.
Yes. So thank you all, everyone, for watching. I hope you all will join us next week when we see what more chaos comes our way from our government. Thank you all, and have a great evening.
Likewise. Thank y'all.
Thank you.